Archbishop Dominiquae Bierman has traveled the world for over 3 decades proclaiming the gospel from Zion to the nations with miracles following. She exposes the false doctrines of replacement theology and preaches restoration to the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. This is the revival of the 3rd millennium, the 21st century like the 1st century.
And they're too late, and they knock on the door, the bridegroom opens and says, so, and I can't let you in because I don't even know you. Meaning I don't know you intimately. That means that when those little foxes were going on, instead of turning to me for help, you went ahead and you let those little foxes go ahead and eat your fruit and eat your vineyards and drink your oil, and bam, you now have been left dry, and therefore I can't even let you in. Too late. So the timing is very much important. Extremely important. Yahweh is a God of timings. Let me give you another example. For example, you know, let's say a father tells a son and says, you know, tomorrow I'm going to take you to the movies, or I'm going to take you to the Luna Park, and I'm going to come at 5 p.m. Get ready, and me and you are going to have daddy and son time. So the son gets, let's say, 6 years old. And the son is excited. He's going to have a daddy time only for himself. Life is so busy. And here his daddy is about to give him some time. And so now 5 comes and the child is ready. I mean excited. I mean hopeful. I mean he's expectant. Imagine what is he feeling. He's got butterflies in his stomach. He's going to go out with daddy. And daddy is going to take him to the Luna Park, and daddy's going to take care of him, and he's going to have a great time with daddy. And what happens? All of a sudden 5:01 comes and daddy hasn't arrived. And he thinks to himself, oh, daddy is late. Oh, maybe he forgot. Oh, he begins to get afraid. Oh, maybe daddy. And he said, no, probably he got entangled in traffic. So many times daddy comes late to mommy's appointment, and he says that he got entangled in traffic. And often he even doesn't come to the when he has a special time with mommy, and he says that he got caught up in work. And so probably something happened. He will arrive a little later. 5:05 comes, daddy doesn't come. 5:10 comes, daddy doesn't come. 5:15 comes, and now the child comes to a point of deep sadness, deep grief, deep disappointment. Let me tell you, beloved ones, that is a deep disappointment for a child. It's so deep that it can accompany the child for life. And so the child feels completely disappointed and sad. He feels rejected. He feels abandoned. All of these feelings go through the child's mind. I'm not worthy for my dad to take time out with me, and all kinds of things begin to happen in the child's heart. And then at 6 p.m., the father calls from work, supposedly. And the father says, hey, buddy, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, my boss just asked me to stay late, and I couldn't make it at 5 p.m. But don't worry, honey, I'm going to make it up to you. You know, from that moment, that father lost trust with the son. And what happens is that the son, deep within his heart, will say, okay, daddy, but deep within his heart, it's not going to be okay. It's going to be, I don't trust you anymore. And then out of I don't trust you anymore will start a root of bitterness to be built up, a frustration, a broken expectation of a broken commitment, a broken promise. And that is a little betrayal that can become a dangerous thing for life. Very dangerous. And that happens in nearly every family where parents give promises to children and break them. And it even happens in many churches when pastors and leaders and bishops and archbishops give promises to their flock and they break them. And then it happens between the children and the parents. And then the parents don't understand, why is it that my child is not trustworthy? Well, he has learned something from somebody. How can it be that they don't keep the word? Well, because maybe you didn't keep your word. And so what happens is that the child learns from inception, from childhood, to break his word. And little betrayals begin to happen in his life, and little betrayals become big, and then eventually it becomes into total betrayals and treason in various other ways. And then when they come to Yahweh, when they come to Yeshua, you get saved, and you've been accustomed to the little betrayals, to the little lies, to the little broken promises, the little broken commitments. And then you're with Yahweh and you say, yes, Lord, amen. And you're in a prayer meeting, amen, in a worship meeting, yes, amen. Turn around and you actually do not do your amen. Then what happens is that you are breaking covenant and breaking relationship with the Most High God. We cannot treat anti-Semitism superficially. We must go to the very roots and eliminate it. If believers in Messiah are free from the Romanized identity of Messiah, only then will they have the power and the authority to fight it and prevail. This is from my newest book, The Identity Theft of the Messiah. This book is rock solid, based on the Word and also based on history. I invite you to get it and to be transformed. And then you don't understand why do you become depressed and why your life is actually a dry desert instead of a blooming vineyard. Because when the little foxes were there, you didn't shoo them away. You didn't roar them away with the roar of the Lion of Judah that's much greater than those little foxes. You didn't kill them right then and there, and you didn't own to the fact that you had them, so you began to give excuses, life and this, and you know how it is, and my parents did it, I'm doing it too, so I've got the same habit, so that's the reason, what can I do? Anytime that you're going to excuses, the little foxes are going to grow. Can you say that with me? Excuses in my life make the little foxes to grow and become big foxes. And little betrayals become massive betrayals and endanger my life and the life of many around me. That's the truth. Let me show it to you from the Word. Proverbs 25, verse 19. Like a broken tooth or a lame foot is confidence in the unfaithful in time of trouble. Confidence in the unfaithful. Now, who is the unfaithful? Let's go to the Hebrew. The word here for the Hebrew is boged. Can you say with me, boged? Boged. Okay. And that is a betrayer. So I could easily change this word here and quote it verbatim from the Hebrew. Like a broken tooth or a lame foot is confidence in the betrayer or in the traitor in time of trouble. I already told you that a betrayer or a traitor is one that breaks his commitments. Is a person that does not fulfill his obligations, his commitments, his vows, and he breaks and he technically falsely promises and doesn't do it, or forgets it, or whatever excuse you may find. So it says that that's like a broken tooth or a lame foot. Now let me explain this thing about the broken tooth. Any one of you has ever had a broken tooth? Have you tried to eat through that tooth? You can't. It's very painful, in fact impossible. And what happens is when the tooth gets broken, then what happens, you're going to start compensating. Let's say your left tooth got broken, then you're going to start compensating and eating only from the right side of the mouth. And then you're going to make the right side of the mouth work double, because the left side has a broken tooth. And that's exactly what happens. And that when we put our confidence in people that betray because they break their promises, because they don't keep their word, then what happens is that eventually we end up putting a lot of strain in other areas of our team. For example, if you have a team and you have a person that betrays, a person that is unfaithful, a person that breaks commitment, then the workload will fall on others that maybe are faithful, keeping their commitment, And therefore the load becomes strong. And what happens when we, let's say, use the right tooth and the right side of the mouth more than the left, eventually the right side of the mouth will be damaged as well. And so eventually we can end up with a mouth that cannot chew at all and destroy all of our teeth because of one tooth that is broken that did not get fixed. Can you imagine somebody that has a broken tooth, cannot eat on the left side of the mouth, say, it's all right, it's not a problem, it's just that that happens, but does not own to the fact that the tooth is broken and that he needs to fix that tooth so that he can eat on the left side of the mouth. And that's, as I said from the beginning, excuses will keep your tooth broken and you will not be able to eat. Now, look at this allegory, because this allegory is totally tremendous. I mean, just if you've ever had teeth problem, you can understand how painful it is, therefore, to have a broken tooth. And if I have a team member, for example, that is a betrayer, and I'm going to explain even deeper the word betrayer in a moment, but that's a betrayer by not keeping his commitments or her commitments, or by breaking covenant, by breaking their word, by, simply making excuses and keep on going and keeping on the same habits and the same patterns. And they didn't kill their evil thoughts at the beginning. They didn't kill the evil attitudes from the start. They didn't kill all of these things right from the start, but they let it be there like little foxes that spoil the vineyard, because they didn't do their due diligence and they didn't think nothing about those little betrayals. Then what's going to happen, it's going to cause pain. And that pain can be caused like that in families, between spouses, between children and parents, in the workplace, between the workers and the boss and the leadership, in the ministry team, in congregations, in the government, in every place, any place where the promises have been broken, where commitments have been broken, where vows have been broken, there will be a pain like a broken tooth. That's pretty painful. Everybody that has suffered from that, you know that you can have a broken tooth and on top of it your head hurts, and then all the way to the tip of your toes hurts too, because it affects all of your body. And then the second thing that it says, like a broken tooth or a lame foot. And in Hebrew, that the word for a lame foot here is a foot out of joint. A disjointed foot. Now, think about a disjointed foot. If you ever suffered from a disjointed foot, you know it is extremely painful. It causes inflammation, and you begin to limp. You cannot run anymore. You cannot walk anymore. For the most part, you need to have a cane or something to help you walk. It is impossible to put any kind of weight on a foot out of joint. Now, if because of little betrayals that you haven't really killed right from the beginning to change that in your life, and you stop, giving commitments, not keeping them, then what happens is that you will be a person like a foot out of joint. And then no heavy anything can be put on you. In other words, you cannot carry anything. You're not reliable. You're not dependable. Now, listen well. I'm going to explain something to you about this. You see, our God, Yahweh, is Elohim of His Word. Whatever He says, He does. When Yeshua walked on the earth, He said, I only speak what the Father is speaking, and I only do what the Father is doing. Therefore, He says, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. So we know that Yeshua is the very image of the Father. And He is the Word that never fails, that is always kept, made flesh. Whatever He says, He does. Can you say that with me? Whatever He says, He does. And then He came to His Jewish disciples 2,000 years ago in Matthew 5:34 to 37. And He gave them an admonishing. He gave them His heart for the way they should walk. And He said this, but I tell you, do not swear at all, not by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black. But let your word be yes, yes, and your no, no. Anything more than this is from the evil one. What was he saying? You see, most people tend to promise and say, yes, of course, yes, amen, I'm going to do it, yes, I promise you it will be better, I promise you I will come on time, I promise you I will not break covenant with you, I promise you, and then they go ahead and they break it without thinking twice. And Yeshua says to them, look guys, stop the exaggerations and stop your pride, because really you can do nothing by yourselves. And you really cannot make any hair, no black, no white. Of course, anybody can paint their hair black and white in this generation, but he meant naturally. You cannot make your hair black or white. And to be honest with you, you just need to be like me. Don't try to be better than I. When I say something, I don't go into big exaggerations. And I go, I promise you and I swear to you that I will be better and I will do this and I will do that, and a lot of words. He says, no, just simply this. When you said yes, let it be so serious that anybody can cash it and take it to the bank. That they know that when you said yes, they can absolutely blindly, completely trust your yes. We cannot treat anti-Semitism superficially. We must go to the very roots and eliminate it. If believers in Messiah are free from the Romanized identity of Messiah, only then will they have the power and the authority to fight it and prevail. This is from my newest book, The Identity Theft of the Messiah. This book is rock solid, based on the Word and also based on history. I invite you to get it and to be transformed. And what happens is that because the betrayals and the broken promises and the broken covenants and the broken vows have been so accommodated in the spirit of this generation that people don't regard their words as valuable. But we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator. And when we receive the new nature, the nature of Yeshua within us, then that gathers that within us we have the one that is able to help us destroy all of those little foxes and the little betrayals, and can help us to walk like he walks, that when he says yes, it's yes, and when he says no, it's no. He just requires us to imitate him. Today I was talking with one team member and I was explaining about the importance of declaring the word and standing on the word and making word prayers. And that particular team member said, no, but I'm not making myself word prayers on my particular situation, my own little foxes that I need to deal with. And I said, why not? I've said thousands of times about the importance of doing word prayers to deal with specific situations. Oh, well, I didn't understand that was an instruction. You see, let me tell you something, beloved. Yeshua only wants us to do what he does and what he says. And so when we imitate him, we walk like him. When you have a leader that is worthy of imitation, you don't need that leader to come and say, do this, do that, do this, do that. That's a baby. You just need to watch What do they do? And imitate Yeshua in them. That's what Paul said. Paul said, imitate me as I imitate the Messiah. So there's no need to go do this, do this, do this, do that. Just watch how they do it and go do exactly the same. And so, anyways, the point is that Yeshua said this is the way to walk. Your yes needs to be a yes. So if you gave a yes to something and you forgot it, you have broken your word right then and there, and you've got a little betrayal. Now you add to that a few more times that you do that, and before you know it, you've become like a broken tooth or a foot out of joint, and you are not dependable, you are not to be trusted any longer. And I'm going to tell you something. Yeshua has people that he trusts and people that he doesn't. How do I know? Because in John chapter 15, he said very, very clearly, if you love me, you keep my commandments. And if you do what I say, then I will call you friends. I will not call you servants anymore. I will not call you slaves anymore, because the slaves do not know what the master is doing. But the friends know all things. In other words, what he's really saying there is, I don't find you dependable. You are still a slave. And I don't find you dependable, and therefore I cannot entrust you with my secrets. I cannot entrust you with projects that are meaningful, for the simple reason that you are not to be trusted. You are not trustworthy. So you're not my friend yet. But once you become my friend, I can bare my heart before you, and I can tell you what bothers me and what I want you to do and what are my secrets and how I want you to do it, because you have become my friend. In other words, in Yeshua, one of the scriptures in the Word says that when Yeshua returns to the earth, will he find faithfulness on the earth? Will he find people that are trustworthy on the earth? People that their word is, their yes is yes, and their no is no. And that have no excuses of why would they be breaking it. You see, I know that there are situations in life that I would call force majeure. That means situations that are beyond your control. For example, if you promise your child that you will be there at 5 o'clock for the Luna Park, and God forbid, somebody goes to a horrendous car accident and you're unconscious and you can't call your child, it's understandable. It's force majeure. It's beyond your control at this point. But most betrayals are not beyond your control. Most betrayals are an act of the choice of convenience. Whereabout it's more convenient not to keep your word rather than to keep your word. And it's much preferable than if you gave a promise to someone, instead of just forgetting about it and dismissing it and just simply breaking it, to go to that someone and ask them to forgive you for giving a promise in haste. And ask them to release you from the promise that you've given, and they have the prerogative of releasing you or not releasing you. But you can ask them to release you from the promise that you have given, but at the same time, if you have caused pain or you have caused hurt, then go ahead and make restitution to that person. It's very important. You need to realize that it's not even enough to say sorry. When we break our commitments, when we break covenant, when our yes wasn't our yes and our no wasn't our no, and we didn't display the nature of the Messiah in us, and we turn ourselves to become traitors through little foxes, little betrayals that spoil our vineyard and our fruit, then it's not only enough to come and ask forgiveness. That is the first step. But when you do come to ask forgiveness, do not give the excuse with the apology. Many people come and said, I'm so sorry that I came late, but I was caught up in traffic. That's not a good excuse. I would think that it would be much better to say, I'm sorry that I came late. I didn't get out on time to battle the traffic well. I calculated wrong. That would have been. Or I chose not to get out earlier because I lazed. That is much more honest when you ask your forgiveness than begin to give all kinds of excuses that Yahweh knows they are lame because he knows everything. We cannot treat anti-Semitism superficially. We must go to the very roots and eliminate it. If believers in Messiah are free from the Romanized identity of Messiah, only then will they have the power and the authority to fight it and prevail. This is from my newest book, The Identity Theft of the Messiah. This book is rock solid, based on the Word and also based on history. I invite you to get it and to be transformed. So it's better to be honest. If Adam would have come from behind the trees in honesty and said, you know what, Elohim, the truth is this. The truth is that I was looking at that tree just like my wife was. And when she took, I saw a great opportunity for me to taste of the fruit and not to carry the responsibility. And the truth is that I was a coward and I broke your commandment and I allowed my wife to do it and I was caught up in the same lust and the same temptation, and the truth is that I've sinned against you. Had he said that, there are chances that at that moment Elohim would have forgiven them, maybe disciplined them in his way, but maybe he wouldn't have expelled them from the garden. He may have disciplined them, he may have taught them a lesson, he may have clothed them. He did clothe them with animal skin at that point that represented the first blood sacrifice. But he may have done all of those things, but they were not honest, and they kept the betrayal going by bringing on excuses, and they kept the betrayal growing by their excuses instead of owning to it. Say with me, owning to it. Without any extenuating circumstances. That's right. Without any extenuating circumstances. You see, they didn't have any extenuating circumstances, but they invented some. Cain didn't have any extenuating circumstances. In the same parasha, the same Torah portion, but he invented some. Oh, he was depressed. Why? Well, he was depressed because God didn't receive his offering. Well, he didn't receive his offering because he didn't do it according to the prescribed first fruits. And he gave him whatever offering you wanted to give him, but it was time for first fruits. And he should have given him the first fruits.
If you enjoyed today's program, support this broadcast by donating to kad-esh.org. To connect with us, write to info@kad-esh.org or mail to 52 Tuscan Way, Suite 202-412, St. Augustine, Florida, 32092, USA. Or call us at 1-972-301-7087. We'd love to hear from you. And join us again next week. Shalom.